You're listening to the Happier Marriage Podcast, and this is episode number 8. What we'll be discussing on this episode is the hidden secret of unhappy marriage that no one talks about. Could it be linked to childhood? As you listen to this episode, approach it with an open mind, and when you hear something that you might feel resistant to, hang in there, because we're going to make sure that you have a safe landing at the end of this episode. So don't run away when you hear something that may not necessarily be what you've been hearing all this time. Also, make sure to bookmark this podcast as your top resource for insights on having a happier marriage. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Kingsley Grant, a licensed marriage and family therapist, certified relationship coach, and an in-demand speaker who have been married for over 3 decades with 2 adult children. I'm also the founder and CEO of Helping Families Improve, a counseling center that caters to helping families experience the life God intended for them to have. So how do we have a happier marriage where love, respect, and deep connection takes place? That's what you'll find out as you listen to the Happier Marriage Podcast. What's up, ladies and gentlemen of Happier Marriage community? I hope you're ready for another round of Happier Marriage Podcast. This episode might trigger you because it hits close to home. But that's one of the purpose of this show, to stir things up and then to take you in for a safe landing. And if you're listening by podcast, you'll hear we have a special guest today who is going to help us navigate this area of having a happier marriage. And her name is Goumah Conde. Goumah, let me tell you a bit about her, who she is, so you can know what you're in for. Goumah is a licensed marriage and family therapist, a clinical fellow, and an American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy, wife and mother of 3, who specializes in attachment and trauma work, helping individuals and couples overcome trauma and learn how to maintain a healthy, sustainable, and thriving relationship with self and with others. Goumah, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me, Kingsley. I'm doing very well.
Awesome. It is so great. I've been waiting for this opportunity to have you on the show because I said I could not wait to have anybody better than you to come and speak about what I believe so many marriages are lacking, but may not even know why they're lacking it. And that's what we're going to dig in today. But on the topic of happier marriage, Goumah, when you think of that, I know it's happier have a very relative way because some people may see their marriage as happy, and others may not see it as such. So it's all really related to how they interpret their own relationship. But in general, when you hear people talk about happier marriage, what comes to your mind?
I think for me, when I hear happy, the first thing that I'm thinking about is, what does happy mean to you? Right? And then the second thing that comes to mind is, has this person even really experienced happiness? Do they know what happiness is? And that's my trauma brain, right? That's asking these questions, because I'm going, okay, happiness for somebody may be I'm respected. Happiness for another person may be I'm seen, right? So it really just depends on what this person's experience is.
Yeah. And, I think what I really like what you're kind of the angle which you're coming from, because I find sometimes so many people have a different definition or idea, and especially who came from a marriage or a family like myself, right? I'm Jamaican, and we have this idea of the culture and how sometimes you don't see a lot of affection in some homes. My home happened to be one of those homes where I didn't see as much affection between my dad and my mom. And so we were generally a happy family. But if I was to look at their marriage and say, was their marriage a happy one, it would be hard for me to tell because they stayed together until they both died, until, of course, one died before the other, and then the other one died later. But that's was the only marriage they knew. But if you ask me, were they happy and have a happy marriage, it'd be hard pressed for me to tell because I would not know how to define that. And so if I was to use that and determine, am I having a happier marriage in my own relationship and use them, it'd be hard for me to use them as a way to guide or to define my own marriage as being happy. So I had to kind of step away from that. And I wonder how many people are thinking of their own marriage through the lens of their family and somehow thinking that, okay, maybe I'm happy, but because it's not like parents. I don't know if that makes sense to you. I'm just saying.
It makes perfect sense. And I love that you said that, because sometimes it's not even the parents. Sometimes it's, but my sister looks happier than I am.
That's a good point.
Or
yeah.
my mother looks happier than I am. I've had clients say to me, literally, Kingsley, well, I go to my brother's house and I see the way his wife treats him, right? Yeah. And I don't get that treatment. And so we completely base our happiness off of other people's happiness. And that is, for me as a clinician, that is the first sign that I look for to know that this person probably has never experienced happiness.
That's really interesting because I hear that so often, right? There's a comparison idea where you're saying, okay, I'm gauging if my marriage is not like so-and-so's, that it must not be. And how come we don't have these things going on? How we're not as happy and get it all into that area. But I think that at the end of the day, what a person may really be wanting is a sense of, of connection, or a sense of like, do I feel like my spouse supports me, or do I feel secure in my relationship? And they're using that to base upon I'm not happy because my husband or my wife, for whatever reason, say just pick anyone, it doesn't really acknowledge me, doesn't respect me, doesn't honor me, whatever the case might be. Therefore, I'm not happy. And maybe that person may not even realize what they're doing because they have had this behavior maybe handed to them, or that's all they know since childhood, but don't realize how it's damaging or keeping their relationship from being fully optimized as a happy one.
Correct. And sometimes it's as simple as, when I want to connect with my spouse, is he or she available to me? Right? When I am in pain, does he hear me? Does she hear me? It's as simple as that. But because for many of us, we were never even heard or seen, right? Some of us were told we were supposed to be seen and not heard. Me too. So if you grew up where you were told you're supposed to be seen and not heard, then you don't even know what it is to be heard. So it's almost like we're looking for something that we don't even quite understand what that thing feels like.
And I wonder, and you wonder why people may not even be able to achieve or get what they're looking for, because they don't even know. I just said just now, right? And one of the things I find sometimes is that, as you were saying earlier, that maybe one spouse is trying to access the other and connect at a deeper level, but for some reason they're unable to, and everything they see, maybe even trying, can create a conflict, and it's to avoid it, they just don't even bother. Because I had someone just tell me recently in a session that they are okay with their partner, and they're not married yet, but their partner doing whatever they want to do, because they don't even know what is a healthy relationship. And they're trying to figure out, but the more they try to get closer to this other partner, the more they're pulling away from them and seeing them as like crowding them and not giving them their space, and they want to distance themselves. And I wonder if some of those things may be either learned behavior or is something that is going on below the surface.
Mm-hmm. It's actually below the surface, and yes, it is learned. Because what happens is, when we are close to pain, we look for solutions. Right? So we learn to invent solutions. And for one person, that solution might be, I pull away from you if you cause me any kind of tension, distress. That's being. I pull away. For another person, it may be, I continue to pursue you until you become my solution. Because I want answers. Right? I just worked with a couple, and the spouse, the male, never realized that resolution was critical for him. So he went into performance-based careers, right? He was, he did activities, athletics, all of these things, because guess what? He could get resolution while performing. And so when I brought to his attention, do you realize that every time you get upset, it's because you don't have resolution? He said, I never saw it that way. I just thought I played sports. I just thought, and then after playing sports, he went into coaching. Because guess what? You are now bringing resolution to other people.
Yeah.
So for him, it's really important for him to have that. So his solution to not hurt and to not suffer was to get involved in activities that would give him his answers.
So if we were to take this into like a situation where a person maybe, say, from early childhood learned some things, what might be some things that's going on under the surface why that a person may have learned and in their own relationship now is showing up, but they might not even realize that they're behaving with that learned behavior from a childhood that is impacting their relationship? What are some of those things that they're trying to achieve or accomplish, or solutions they're trying to get, and why would they want to get those solutions?
So we go back to what I talked about earlier, which is that there are two things. There are two basic needs that we have as human beings. We have those needs as infants, toddlers, and we have those same needs as adults. And that is accessibility and responsiveness. When I need you, will you be there? When I call you, are you going to answer me? Think about an infant in a crib.
I had two when they were that day, and trust me, I know what. Keep going, because
Right.
You have had one. You know what happens here, right?
That's correct. They are going to scream and even wail, or start to bang on things until you show up and respond. Until you respond, and it doesn't stop because we become adults. We may not scream. Some of us do scream. But we may not always scream and wail or bang on things, but we will cut you off. We will become insulting towards you. We may even put you down, talk you down, right? We may withhold sexual intimacy from you. We will do all kinds of things to get you to respond to the pain that we're experiencing.
Wow. So that pain that person may have, so it may have started, of course, in probably even early childhood, and that child may have been trying to get something from that parent, that significant person in their life, or parent or so, and somehow whatever happened there or didn't happen there, would that be the thing then that set in motion this underlying desire, drive in their own life, where it shows up into a marriage and possibly is keeping them from a happier marriage, but they can't even put their finger on what's going on?
That's precisely it. So I come from the attachment world, right? That's what I do. And in the attachment world, we have what we call insecure attachments. And then we have secure attachment, which is only one kind. You're either secure or you're not, right? So for insecure attachments, we have more than one, and we have what we call the anxious avoidant. We have the anxious ambivalent, and then we have the anxious disorganized. And for the sake of time, I will just tell you what those things look like, right? So for the avoidant, the primary language there that will make you know that your spouse is avoidant is disconnect. Whenever that person is close to pain, they disconnect from you, right? And then for the anxious ambivalent, it is confusion. So whenever that person is close to pain, they will question you a lot. Why don't you love me anymore? What did I do wrong now? What's wrong with me? Am I handsome? Am I beautiful? You don't even look at me anymore. All of those things, right? And then for the disorganized, you will see a myriad of behaviors, because for the disorganized, that person is really struggling with complex trauma. Right? So you can see a range of emotions, from anger to sadness, to hypervigilance, to withdrawal. You can see all kinds of things taking place there. You could be laughing with that person one minute, the next minute, they're completely enraged and you don't understand what happened.
And I could see how easy a spouse who has, say, their spouse is that way, they could take that personally and wonder, like you're saying, what did I do? And they may have nothing to do with what's happening. They may have totally nothing to do. And the person will say, it's not you. They may say, right, that if they can articulate that, or, they speak that pain, it's not you. But that person feel like they're trying to search and scan, where did I go wrong? What did I say? Because they're taking it very personally, because they have no idea of what's going on. And that person may not be able to explain truly what their pain is.
That's accurate. There was a research done some time ago, and what they found in that research was that when they looked at the different attachment styles that were getting married, they found that it was almost impossible, though you had some, to see two avoidants marry each other. Because if you think about it, if I'm close to pain and I disconnect, and you're close to pain and you disconnect, there ends the marriage.
Yes.
Right? But we may not know what we're experiencing. Like you said, we don't have no idea what's going on. So I'm thinking you're disconnecting because I'm doing something to you. And you're thinking I'm disconnecting because you're doing something to me. So now we keep pulling away from each other because we have no clue what is going on with us.
Does a person, for example, who is in that moment, Goumah, who is possibly experiencing an attachment issue, right? And they're either, anxiously attached, and I'm sorry, attachment is their anxious avoiding, for example, right? Are those people able to possibly connect what's going on with them in their pain to possibly a childhood situation that may have given birth to that?
I've not seen people do it effectively without professional guidance.
That's what I was going to say, that my thought was they probably even themselves don't even realize that where that thing was actually birthed, and you're going to help guide them to that place. And then they will have an insight, like, I could see how that was what I was experiencing.
That's correct. I mean, if I think about myself, I did not know how I attach. I did not know what I do when I'm close to pain until I understood, I got the knowledge behind it, and the theories and the understanding from that. But I didn't know. All I knew was, I just behave a certain way. And that was just it. And so what we do then is we justify our behavior because we don't understand it. So you hear such a thing as, that's just who I am. Deal with me.
Yes.
Right? Or why can't you just accept me for who I am?
I think I could see myself as that anxious avoidant, because I think for me, when pain showed up, my sense of distancing with what I would be doing, and I just and I don't even know, I didn't at the time know why that was so important for me. But in my head, I'm thinking, I need that to create space and give myself time. But really, it was an avoidant technique that I put in place, my strategy that came up with, just to, quote, survive, unquote. But I didn't realize, I did eventually, but earlier on, I didn't realize why I was doing that. And I think that as I look back to my own upbringing and my own childhood, with my dad especially, when pain came around for me, I speak to myself because my siblings also share the very same thing. We had to figure a way, to really experience not the wrath of our dad. Not that he was a horrible person, he wasn't, but he was with what he had. we had to then kind of detach or shut down or move away from that. And that was our kind of survival kind of technique. And I carried that throughout my teenage years, into my adult years, and in my early marriage. I think I recognized I was doing that.
I'm glad that you give that example, because that is precisely what I normally would use to help many adults understand this disconnect, right? I would say to them, imagine growing up in a home, and especially as a teenager, when your parents get upset with you, what do? You remove yourself and you go to your room most time, and you stay in your room.
Yes.
And it works because you're not in your parents' face, so they're not irritated, and you're not irritated, right? But now you get married, and you're moving to the guest room to sleep, and your spouse is in the bedroom, in your bedroom, right? Because that's what you're used to doing.
Yeah.
That's what you do when you're hurting. You self-soothe. You remove yourself and you self-soothe. You breathe, you listen to music, you read your book, you do whatever you want to do until you calm down. But that is not healthy for marriage. So we must then learn how we attach so that we can help our spouse learn how we attach.
So that's really, I think, the key part. I would like to, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think a person may, a couple, as you're listening and you're thinking, well, maybe our marriage, as we said earlier in our title, that you're not having what you see as a happier marriage, but not knowing what it is. And the idea is, if you could identify and having hear Goumah explaining this and be able to communicate that, because I find how once you're able to communicate with your spouse, and hopefully they're open to you sharing and receiving that information, that I believe will open the door to possibly experiencing a more connected marriage, and more where you feel satisfied and feel more secure, because now he knows or she knows, and is not taking it as personal anymore, like it's them that's causing the problem.
Beautifully said. Because you see, Kingsley, I can tell you all day, right? I can tell you all day, no, you didn't do anything. It's not your fault.
Right, yeah.
Right? It's not you. But you're never going to believe it because you see me in distress.
Yes.
However, if I say to you, I am hurting and I just need some time to catch my breath or to take a walk, all of a sudden it makes sense to me, to you, and you even want to join me in helping me to let go of the pain. So whatever is going to cause for you to join me, you're going to do it. So if it causes you to give me the space, you're going to say, take the space, because that space will bring you closer to me.
I love that. That's that was framed so well, because as you're talking, I could hear like a person maybe listening, thinking, man, that's exactly what I need. I really need that for my relationship. But I think I like what you said earlier. This is something you want to do in a professional setting, because you may not even know what you're going through. There's something there, or your spouse may know there's something there. That's why you want to reach out to a professional like Goumah, who specializes in attachments, who can basically raise the mirror for you to show, hey, look in the mirror. Could this be what's going on with you? Could this be what's happening? And you probably will say yes. And then she can guide you through that process. So I know we could spend a whole hour or two, because there's so much to this. We're just kind of touching on the tip of the iceberg, per se. There's so much below the surface. But what I would like to see, if we can kind of land this plane, Goumah, and if you could land it for us with going back to what you said, I think was so key when you describe how those styles show up, right, about the accessibility and responsibility, and you frame it so well. So if a couple who's listening right now, or even one spouse, and they're trying to take that to say, okay, let me take that home and see and watch and observe and see if this is happening, what might they be looking at, or something they could actually see as a clue, or some way to identify it may be what's going on? How would you tell that spouse to possibly where to start and what to look for? And maybe not that they're going to diagnose their spouse and say, oh, you're an anxious ambivalent, or you're anxious disorganized. No, don't do that.
No.
We're not suggesting that, but at least you can have an educated way to know what's going on in the relationship. Can you kind of take some time to kind of land this plane with that for us?
Yeah, sure. So, and it's tricky because, like you said, the first thing we want to do is start diagnosing
Yes.
our spouse, right? Sometimes you have spouses diagnosing themselves. I can't tell you how many narcissists I've met recently, right? I think I'm a narcissist.
Oh, yeah. If I could put $1 on every person that I hear either saying my spouse or this person is a narcissist, I would give up counseling and just go relax and retire.
Correct. And so I try to be really careful with that. But what I will say, some simple things to look at. To me, the way to even start is to sit with your lover tonight and say to him or to her, when you are hurting, when something bothers you, or when someone does something to you that you don't like, or when you're worried about something, what brings you comfort? What makes you feel good? And then maybe that person will say, just some time alone. Or if you just hold me. So now, some time alone will be the avoidant. If you hold me, will be the ambivalent. So you will hear these kinds of words being dropped. And if you really want to heal your marriage, and you really want to come close, you take that word and you go into action. That's the responsiveness.
Yeah, and this is where I think sometimes that is where the work comes in, and maybe the difficulty, because that person needs that from you. But sometimes it's the hardest thing to give that person what they really need. Like, for example, hold me. And especially if that person doesn't know how to really give that the way the person may want it. Again, it could raise another issue. Or the person may say, just give me some time. And if they have to really realize this is a very important conversation you're having, that you're simply saying, I'll do whatever I need to do to change the marriage I'm having right now. And what Goumah is saying, yes, it's not going to be just walk in the park and it just happens this way. There's some work involved. Question is, are you willing to do the work? How important is a happier marriage for you? How important it is to feel more connected or a deeper connection in your marriage, or to feel more secure in your marriage? If those things are important, then I believe that you will rise to the occasion, as Goumah so well put it. And I love what she said. You can know if the person says, this is what I need when I'm in pain. I would just say, listen, lean in. And I think that could be a good start towards a happier marriage.
I agree with you. Lean in. There's a book, this one is a separate issue, but it's a book of a mom whose son was struggling with addiction. And the book is called Stay Close, right? So I always say that. Stay close, right? Stay close. What is he asking for? What is she asking for? Sometimes we try to do too much. Yeah. We want to buy the roses. We want to buy the diamonds. We want to buy the cars. When all that person needs is for you to hold, or for you to give them 10 minutes to breathe.
You know, I'm glad you said it, because sometimes people are trying to figure that they're thinking that I know what you need. I'm going to get you some roses, or get you this, or get you that. And the person appreciates that, but they're simply saying, that's really, if I had a choice, that I would not even care for that. And I think what you said, and I love the examples you gave. It could be, just hold me, or give me some space, and I'll be okay. And I think that is what you're honoring that person with. You're honoring your relationship, and you're honoring their request, respecting that. And I believe when you do those things and you honor that way, then God would also honor you and give you the happier marriage, because he will see your heart and know that you just did not know. But now that you know, you're responsible, right? So I think that I just ask, make it a matter of prayer, trust God, and ask God for help and for wisdom, because he will help you to navigate this very tricky place you might be in your relationship. So any last word as we kind of land this, Goumah? And also, how can people find more about you and your work and get in contact with you?
My last words would be more one of faith, right? I'll say, I love the word courage. I'll say, pray for the courage to understand, and pray for the courage to let go of the pain so that you can embrace your spouse. And I can be found on all of your social media platforms, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, at Your Marriage Village. At Your Marriage Village. That is it.
And that link, I'll make sure it's in the show notes, and it will be following this show, so you'll find that link as well. and making certain you contact Goumah, because she has a lot more. As you can hear, this is just touching the tip, because she is very knowledgeable, especially in the area of trauma and attachment styles. And many times you and I may be experiencing some of those things. And one thing I do know is that God cares and He loves you, both of you, and He wants you to have a relationship that mirrors His relationship with us. And He has done everything possible for us to have that. Now it's our turn to, and I love what you said, Goumah, is ask God for the courage to do that. With that said, Goumah, I want to say thank you so very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us here on the Happier Marriage Podcast. I truly appreciate that, and that audience will appreciate that very much as well. And I can't wait to have you back to come and talk about more trauma, because there's another piece to this equation that I didn't want to get into, and I just want to talk about attachment today. But I would love to get you back in. And will you come back and speak about trauma and marriage at some point?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been a pleasure being on, and blessings to you and to your listeners and our viewers out there.
Thank you so very much. With that said, my friend, thank you for watching, those who have watched and those who are listening to this podcast. And we just want to let you know that this is a weekly podcast, and you can find it on any podcast platforms that you would listen to. And you'll find it also on the YouTube channel. This video will be there. If you're listening to the podcast, go over there and watch it. And if you and send someone there as well. So thank you so much for listening and watching. With that said, I want to say to you, may God bless you and your household. May His peace rest upon you. May His face shine on you and be gracious to you both now and forever. God bless you. Thank you. Bye.